Alright you guys, how's it going? So, in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to drive a manual transmission, or stick shift as it's commonly known. But as you can see, my truck here is a manual. So, you typically have, well not typically, but in all manual transmissions you have a clutch next to your brake and next to your accelerator pedal. Lots of people like to call it the gas pedal, but it actually does nothing connected to the gas. It's a vacuum. So that's just one thing that always irks me. But nice thing about driving one of these too is you get to post pictures like this. That's always funny, but not sexist or anything. Just I know a few women who drive sticks, but most of them, they're what the fuck. So, but basically, how a clutch operates is fairly simple. So you're gonna, whenever you push your clutch in here, like that, you typically have two different types of clutch drives. This is a cable clutch, so that means that there's a hard cable running from my clutch all the way down to the, or running from my clutch pedal all the way to the clutch plate. Or you have a hydraulic, which most of the new cars today have those. So how it works is you have your clutch right here that connects to your flywheel, and the flywheel is on the back of your engine here. So I like to think of it like, think of my fist here spinning, which is, you know, the engine, essentially the crankshaft spinning here, and then you have your clutch. And so essentially you also have a pressure plate on the other side of your clutch here. And so when your clutch is out or engaged, they're going to be together like this, and so they're spinning in unison with the speed of the engine. But when you start pressing it, there's a pressure plate with two little forks that press the clutch out. And so as we push, you can see my foot there, as we push, it's going to start separating. Okay, and so that's actually the only way you can start a manual transmission vehicle, is you have to push the clutch in. Otherwise, this truck doesn't do it, but because it has a built-in safety switch. But I remember my dad's old Nissan did it, and if you try to start the truck without pushing the clutch in, it'll jump forward because the clutch and the flywheel are still connected. So that's something to think about. But hey Scarlett. So that's how a clutch really works, you know, and you use it right here for doing all your shifting. So it doesn't want to go into reverse right now, but yeah. So that's the basics of working a clutch. And you know, and there's a typical old saying of a you need to think of it as a teeter-totter or a seesaw. And so when moving, you know, you're gonna have, here, I'll just do this so it's easier to see. So you're gonna have, when you're sitting in traffic, you're gonna have, if you're assuming your vehicle's in gear, right now it's in neutral. If you can do this, you either have a really loose gearbox, worn out I should say, or it's in neutral. So make sure it's, right now it's in first. And so say you're sitting at a stoplight, you're gonna want to have your foot on the clutch here, and then as you're going, you want to let off. That's the first thing you want to figure out, is where your clutch pedal engages at. So for me, mine engages right about here. And so typically after I put it in gear, I'm always sitting like this, because I just know where my clutch engages. And then right when it gets to that point, you're going to start pushing on the gas, on the accelerator pedal, sorry, and then letting off the clutch at the same time. And then when it comes time to shift again, you shift, do the same thing. So it seems really complicated and taxing and whatnot when it comes to learning how to drive one of these things. But once you figure it out, it's like breathing, you know, it really is. I never think about I never think about actually shifting anymore, because it's become like clockwork. But so those are the basics of driving a stick shift. I've got a really long after this, you know, I've got a really long set of videos here that if you guys want, you guys can watch. If not, you know, it's I think total it's like 20 minutes or so. And it goes into driving in different situations. Actually, me in the vehicle driving on canyon roads, freeway, city, talking about how to drive a manual. So if you want to watch that, great, thank you. Keep watching, you know, stay tuned, keep the video open. If not, thank you for watching. And as always, guys, if you're done watching this, thanks for watching. If not, hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video. Alright, you guys, so now that we've covered how a clutch works, I'm going to show you different scenarios here on driving one. So we're about to hop on the freeway here. I had to pull over and get everything set up here on the camera. So right now I'm in first gear. Got the clutch pulled in, let it go, put the gas out, start going through the gears. Overdrive or fifth gear. So it's you know, once you get the hang of it and once you practice and whatnot, it's a fairly easy thing to operate. You know, and I find it more fun than an automatic. I mean, sure, it's the one downside here living in California is driving a manual with rush hour traffic on the 405 or something, so that's probably the biggest downside really of driving a manual here. But I wish we still had the car, but we used to have a Mini Cooper convertible. And it was a stick shift as well, and man, that was a fun car to drive. I wish I could have done the video on that car instead of my truck here, but make lemonade out of lemons, right? So but you know, this is driving a manual. Once you're at speed, you know, you put your foot that you use your clutch for, you can put it right back here. And that's another thing, you really don't want to ride the clutch. I mean, is it bad for it in the short run? No, but it can wear your clutch disc out from having constant pressure on it. And I mean, I'm talking just a little bit of pressure, especially nowadays with the hydraulic clutches, whereas mine is a cable clutch, so it's actually actuated by a cable connected to the clutch pedal. And so for instance, the Mini Cooper, that was a hydraulic clutch, and you know, it was a fun little car to drive. But so, you know, say you need to pass someone, what you're gonna do is put your foot on the clutch, and then once you find out what you're gonna do and you know, execute it, you're gonna put your foot on the clutch, depress it, drop it into the lower gear that you want to go into, and then, like I said before, it's like the seesaw motion or the teeter-totter. You're gonna do this with your feet. And so I'm gonna do it right now. You're probably not gonna be able to see my feet, but you'll be able to see the shifter here. So clutch is in, fourth gear, gas in, clutch out, and speed back up, clutch in, fifth gear, let the clutch out, put gas on. So it's and you don't want to abruptly change your shifts either. I mean, you don't want to just let your foot up off the clutch, because especially in low speeds and your high gears, as far as 1, 2, and sometimes 3, depending on your vehicle, you want to let it out nice and smooth. And sometimes you'll hear some people who are either, you know, the vehicle is either warming up, so the clutch isn't acting right, you know, or people who are learning how to drive a stick for the first time. You'll hear them put too much gas on and let the clutch out too slowly, and so it basically just sounds like the engine is just revving, and then it's just taking a while for the clutch to catch up. So, or that could mean a worn out clutch disc. So, which consequently, that also happened in the Mini Cooper. So yeah, that's driving a stick here on the freeway. So we're gonna hop off here, and then we'll show you some in-town driving on this, and take it from there. Alright, we're coming up to the freeway, and this is another added benefit of driving a manual. So you can downshift on your own. So that's third gear right now. I've got the transmission and the brakes slowing me down together instead of just my brakes. And some people are against it. You know, they always say that a transmission or brake pads are cheaper than a transmission, but I figure as long as you're not, you know, going crazy with it and revving it to the red line to slow down, then you should be fine. So now I'm coming to a stop, and my foot is completely down on the clutch right now to keep it from stalling. So first gear, letting it out nice and slow. Just like that. Just like on the highway, it's just you're not going as fast. And you find with certain vehicles, the more slow and deliberate you are with your shifts, the better it's going to shift. And in my opinion, once you get to the point where you can't, like if you're a passenger and you can't feel the shifts being made, that's when you know you're doing a good job as far as shifting is concerned. And so that's the thing is, if you're coming up to a stop or whatever, or if if something happens in front of you on the freeway or something else and you need to slam on your brakes, slam the clutch pedal in with it if you're going to slam on your brakes. Like you saw coming off the freeway, you want to push your clutch pedal all the way down to the floor to prevent it from stalling. Or, like I'll show you, never mind, it turned green. Another thing you could do is just put it in neutral, take your foot off the clutch and just let it coast, because right now it's not in gear, so it won't stall if I stop. And so it's just you know, you gotta take your time and practice. I mean, my dad taught me how to drive a stick when I was 15, and then you know, I got my permit when I was 16, and granted I primarily drove my mom's Honda, which was an automatic, but once I turned, I was almost 17 at the time, and that's when I got my license at just under 17 in Idaho. And my first truck was, or my first vehicle was an older version of this truck, and it was a 96 Ranger, same engine, same transmission. And you know, he took me out several times, and honestly the way that I really learned, other than actually getting out and doing it myself, was just watching my dad drive, watching him from the passenger seat, and seeing his feet move, seeing when he shifts, everything else. And I just watched him for, you know, 2-3 years while we were driving up to Boise or whatever. And you know, that's just how I learned personally. So I mean, if you're on the younger side and you're watching this and your parents drive a stick, you know, and you want to learn how to drive one, just sit back and watch your parents drive, or watch your friend drive, or, you know, if you don't know how to drive stick shift yet, just you know, watch someone else drive in the passenger seat. And for me, that was the easiest way to learn how to drive a stick. And you know, even my dad said that I picked it up pretty quick after watching him for, you know, so many years. But I figure right here will be a good time to show you how to start on a hill, because this is one of the biggest obstacles of driving a stick. So we're coming up the hill. Go this way. So foot's on the clutch, putting it back into first here, and we're on a slight hill, and you just alright, I'll go. No, that one got kind of ruined, but the easiest way to, you know, start learning how to start on a hill is just to do what we did earlier back at the house, which is to find out where your clutching gauge is, as far as your clutch paddle travel. And you know, it's the same with motorcycles, you know, because those are all manuals. And that's the thing that people forget, is if you can drive a motorcycle, or if you can ride a motorcycle, you can drive a stick shift, and vice versa. And because it's the same principle, it's just you're shifting with your hand on your bike. But yeah, it's I know I keep saying it's pretty easy, but I've been doing it for years now. So I mean, when I first started driving, you know, I always looked back down at my shifter here to see what gear I was in. But you know, that was like my first 6 months of driving and owning my truck. And so now it's just as natural as breathing. So but I figured I'll go over the advantages of driving a stick shift or a manual. Is that you know, and it really depends on your vehicle. If you're driving a sports car, Corvette, Porsche, anything else like that, you know, it's a better way to get connected, in my opinion, to the vehicle. You know, you're shifting it, everything else, and you know, when you get on just a perfect driving road, which there's tons of them out here in California and all over the country for that matter, you know, once you find that road and you start getting into that groove, and you learn about the car, how it acts, and it's such a good experience to be able to drive a manual on a nice, I mean, even in this truck, and it's not a canyon carver by any means, and I hit a canyon road and I start downshifting and just shifting through the gears, man, it's fun. So other benefits, and these, you know, this one applies to trucks mostly, but you know, if you're hauling a heavy load, whether it's a trailer or it's something in the bed of your truck, and you're going downhill, you know, gas engines typically don't have an exhaust brake on them like diesels do, and you're going down a hill, you can leave it in a high gear and let the transmission keep, you know, you're going to use the brakes, of course, but nowhere near as much as you would if you were driving an automatic. And some of the new automatics are doing that now, because they have built-in gyroscopes, and you know, they'll start downshifting for you if you put it into haul mode. But anything, you know, 5 or 10 years back, you know, driving a manual was really the best way to do that. And so it's and you get to post pictures on Facebook like these. Those are always funny to post. So I don't know where I am. I just started driving. I feel like I'm a moto vlogger right now, just driving to drive. But I wish I had a bike, but I don't have the balls to ride a bike here in Southern California. Simply because I don't want to die from the incapable drivers here in Southern California. So even driving the Mini Cooper, you know, you felt about this big, you know, next to all the other drivers out here. I don't want to know how I'd feel on a bike, but if I lived anywhere else, with the exception of New York and stuff like that, I would be on a bike right now, no questions asked. But we'll pick this up when I get onto a canyon road like I was talking about. So those are really the basics and of driving a manual and taking it up on the freeway, and the benefits really of driving. And the other thing I forgot to point out is usually You know, again, about 5 years ago, usually driving a manual, you would get better gas mileage than an automatic because you get to pick your gears. And perfect example is the Ford Explorer Sport Track, or the Exploder as people call them. Yeah, and I know it's, I'm sure it's similar for a lot of other vehicles, but you know, the transmission would shift to a lower gear. And when I mean lower, I mean something like 4 and 5. It would shift to those different gears at certain speed intervals. So, for instance, it would shift into 4th at 45 miles an hour, and I could not get it to shift into 5th unless I got to a higher speed. Whereas this, if I want to, right now, I can shift into 5th right now, and I'm doing 1500 RPM and just sipping on gas. So, you know, that's another added bonus that the computer is just making its, doing all of its decision making for you. See what I mean? California drivers, man. Can't make up their mind where they want to go. I'm not a Chevy guy, but that is a nice looking truck. That new 1500 Sierra and Silverado, it's a sharp looking truck. I mean, I know I won't buy one because, again, I'm not a Chevy guy. I'm a Ford guy, and prying guys away from their vehicle specific brand trucks is pretty difficult in my opinion. So I think my next truck is either going to be an F-150 or a Super Duty. I don't really know yet. I'm anxious to see the I'm really anxious to see the new numbers on the 2.7 EcoBoost. So, but I'm gonna quit rambling and we'll get back to driving the manual here on the Canyon Road. All right, so we're on Santa Susana Pass right now, and a road like this, I would say is okay for people learning how to drive a stick, but the road that we're about to turn on to is a lot more technical, and I don't recommend driving it if you're not fairly familiar with driving a stick, if you are going to take a stick shift up this road. So again, this isn't the best kind of vehicle to be taking on these roads, but compared to that little Mini Cooper, man, that was, a lot of people say it was like a go-kart for the street, and they're not lying. It was a fantastic little car, and it just handled like it was on rails, with the exception of being front-wheel drive. Like that's something I look for in cars, especially sporty-oriented cars. Is I want them to be rear-wheel drive instead of being pulled along. That feeling from a front-wheel drive, you get pushed along from a rear-wheel drive. So this is Box Canyon, and you're going to be seeing this shift a lot. So this is a big one. Over there, you can see Simi. We'll get another look at it here in a second. That's Simi Valley. And you notice how brown it looks right now because we're in the worst drought, one of the worst droughts that California's had. So apparently, since right now is July, mid-July, and apparently right now is Don't Wash Your Car month. Yeah. So I'm not really worried about that kind of stuff. Yeah. So Save water if you can, if you live in LA. So, but yeah. So this is a fun little. This is a really technical road, so I mean you can't go that fast in here if you have a truck like mine, or a vehicle like mine, I should say. But if you got a supercar, more power to you. You can probably tell there's a lot of body roll in this truck, so it's not the best canyon carver in the world. So. Pig, USA, America. That pig used to be pink. They painted it purple, or purple. What the hell am I talking about? They painted it the American flag. That thing's really creepy. If you're ever down here for Box Canyon, come down here at night, and that thing has big red, beady, glowing eyes. It's weird. This is probably the biggest obstacle of this road, is just how claustrophobic it can be, with cars parked on the side and a lot of cars coming back at you. So it's a narrow road. Got the back end to slip out there. Alright, time to slow down. Caught up to someone. So this is the San Fernando Valley here. So it's not really a shortcut, it's just a more fun, more enthusiastic way to get into the valley. They are building houses in here like crazy. That was not there a month ago. But if I had the time and the gas to do it, and if it wasn't closed right now, I would I'd be shooting this at El Mirage, the dry lake bed, because it's just I love going out there, and it's just a one of my friends at Moore Park, she learned how to drive a stick out there because there's nothing out there, so there's no risk of her running into anybody or anything really. So, but yeah, it's closed right now because that's the one part of California that has gotten rain. So. And so this Box Canyon that we were just on, the real technical road, this dumps out here onto Valley Circle. But and if you're ever here in Chatsworth, or as this little teeny town's called, go there, right there, Cooking with Lenny. Oh my God, that is some of the best barbecue I've had. It's a bit on the pricey side, but man, that stuff is good. I was eating there when he was still serving his stuff out of a food truck, trying to get that place back there remodeled, and now it's a small little place. It's not a huge restaurant, but you know, it's got a decent little outdoor patio to eat on, and you know, all the beer, of course, and that goes with the barbecue, and yeah, it's just a really good place to eat. So, but yep. So I think that'll do it. As far as driving a manual, you know, like I said, we already covered how they work. We covered driving them on the freeway, in town, on a canyon road, if that's your thing. Squirrel. And all the benefits of driving a stick shift. So I know this video has been a bit long. I've done a bit more rambling than I should have, but you know, comments, questions, leave them down below. Feeling generous, hit that like button, and as always, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.